If you can tell us, what is T2T?
So we decided that we were going to facilitate some sort of project involving food security. So we paired up with a South African company called Real Gardening, and they have created what they call seed strips, which make creating gardens incredibly fast and simple. So we paired with them, and then paired with at least 2 communities in each country that we were going through, and created food gardens then along our journey as well. So our route was actually determined by the various organizations that we were working with, and we drew our sort of roadmap based on those people.
Was there community involvement from the beginning?
By the time we got to the village, we were best friends already. We knew each other's children's names, cousins' names, when your wedding anniversary was. By the time we arrived at the villages or the areas where we were working or the schools, we weren't strangers. We'd been talking for a long time, and that was part of how we knew that we were also working with the right people, is that this relationship had been sustained over a 2-year period. We knew that there was a commitment there. This wasn't someone who just filled in some form and hoped to get something and moved along. We'd all been committed to this for a long time before we even arrived to actually start putting anything in the ground. There was a lot of information that we needed from them up front. And so all of that was done before anybody first drove 1 kilometer. That was all done. And building that relationship, the relationship building during that stage, I think was probably one of the most vital stages of the whole project.
But what was the other key drivers to get the community involved, communicating in advance?
Typically, we were communicating with one person up front. I mean, there were sometimes a few people, but the communications online...
spearheaded by one
Yes,
person.
typically spearheaded by one or a small group of people. Those people had the trust of the community, and so because then we'd built the trust with those people, then that created almost immediately a much wider circle of trust, which was still known. There was still a lot of kind of not necessarily suspicion, but kind of just a little bit not sure what to make of us when we got there. So we had to overcome that, and I think a lot of that was really about kind of just being genuine people when we got there and meeting everybody. And
I think that the way that we communicated up front also indicated quite a lot to people, in that our first approach was very much that you are the expert. I think that we often make the mistake that assuming, even if people are in poor or dire circumstances, that it means that they don't know anything. And I think that's such a false fail from the start. And I think NGOs in general are quite guilty of doing this. So our initial sort of conversation started with, what's going on in your community? What are you finding the hardest things to deal with? And started there, asking questions first, as opposed to coming in and going, you know what, we built food gardens, we're going to solve all your problems. That was never our approach. We first needed to establish from their side what was going on, and then whether this food thing could play a role. And the other thing was that at all times we made sure that they understood that we knew they were the experts. Nobody knows better about their own community, and that links in exactly to what Matt was saying about treating people like experts, finding who trusts who within the community, creating trust in the right ways, so that then when you arrive, the doors are open in general. But then when you arrive, that's the next part of how you have to do things differently, is that if you're going to go and stay in a place because you want to know about this place and you want to learn with the people that you're visiting, then you have to actually visit there. You actually have to stay there. We found that living, eating, washing, brushing our teeth in the middle of Kisangani at the tap with 16 people in the mornings, those are the things. That's where you really get buy-in. That's where I'm showing you that I'm here because I'm here and I want to be part of this. And this is ultimately about relationship building. Trust equals relationships. Relationships are not just a job. They're not just an 8 to 9. You can't just fit them in when you feel like it. It is an actual attitude. And unless you actually feel that way, it's very hard to fake that.
And people receive it. People understand when you're being sincere.
Yes.
when you're truly being sincere.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you guys managed to succeed in building trust in all of these communities, even in very political situations where most people wouldn't even be allowed to enter a zone. You guys managed that.
When we first got on the barge in the Congo, there had been lots of stories that had gone before us of these two crazy people that are about to jump on the barge and cross the Congo. And there were a couple of points further up, right sort of in the dark heart of Africa, as they would call it, where we had some people who came out of the forest on their pirogues and tied up right next to the barge and just sat and looked at us. And we had to kind of acknowledge that even though this is uncomfortable, you are the alien. You are the weird person here. And there was a certain amount of embracing that as well. It's okay to be different. Everybody's different, and difference is the variety, some spice and variety of life and all of that. But how you approach that is important. Difference can be a good thing if we let it be an open thing that we talk about and that we acknowledge and we allow some exploration. And I think that's also important, is that we're not all uniform. Stop treating everything like it's uniform, but we don't need to treat difference like it's a bad thing either. We can just acknowledge it, and also just acknowledge an awkward situation in a community and go, I don't know how to deal with this. This is a bit uncomfortable. In my community, this is how I would do this. Is this how you would do this? Ask questions, ask for guidance, ask the experts who are the people themselves.
We're all suspicious of people that claim to have all the answers.